A question of balance. That's what my image editing consists of. It means balancing the dynamic range I have in my image to reflect the dynamic range I want in that image. Now, with this image opened up into Adobe Camera Raw, I've cropped it, as you can see here, to tighten up the composition. It also has some dark shadows, but if we hit that Auto button, we have an instant improvement and a good starting point for any further edits. Having cropped the image and after lightening the detail in the shadows, we're almost certain to have raised some noise too. But the appeal of many images, certainly this one, isn't in the importance of fine detail, is it? So let's add a fair amount of noise suppression. It's not going to do this image and many others a great deal of harm at all. Color balance is our next issue. Look at the name panel on this balloon. The area around the text really should be white, but it's slightly blue. So if we select the white balance tool and click the panel where we think it should be white, it's going to improve the image still further. Within a short space of time, the image is unrecognizable from what we started with. So why are so many photographers paranoid about image editing? It's a breeze. So let's add a few changes of our own. Maybe just a little more exposure, maybe just a little more shadows into the blue around the edge, and we're lacking in a little bit of contrast, I think, so we'll step up the clarity and maybe even the blacks down a little bit, looking at the histogram up at the top and also the whites to the right. And already we've got a nice glow and maybe even a little bit more vibrance. Let's take a look at the area in the center top, which is probably the weakest, and we'll give it a little more impact. I think for that I'm going to turn to a mask. The mask I'm going to use is probably the most basic. It's just a simple brush. When I select the brush, before I even start to brush on the surface over there, I know what I want to do. I want to take down the highlights and I want to take down the exposure a little bit. And I think that should deal with the color, but if it doesn't, we'll add some of that too. Looking at the flow rate is fairly low, so I can work in a measured way. So highlights first, let's just drop them down. I'm just guessing these settings, but you'll find these soon become second nature. And they're always changeable, of course. Square bracket keys to change the size of the brush, and I can start to brush and drop the flow a little bit to slow down that change, and there you can see how I can quickly and easily add power and impact into that weak area. Maybe while I've got that, I can add a bit of darkness on the top corner, maybe even a little bit of extra on the base. But within a very short space of time, we've made quite a difference. Now I still would like to try to increase the contrast just a touch. To do that, I think I'll go back to the Basic tab. I'm going to go down to the Dehaze and just take a look at taking a little bit of that, just to give it a little more impact. But then I'd like to do something with all of the folds of the fabric of the balloon, maybe giving them a little more texture. To do that, I'm going to go back to my masks. I'm going to select, I think, just the normal brush again. And down in the settings here, I need the flow rate to be somewhere around 25. But down here, I'm going to put in a little more clarity and quite a lot of texture. Because what I'd like to do is to brush over this area and bring through some of that texture. And you can see the interest coming through, and we can do the same around the people. Anywhere else where we feel it's adding to the interest of the image, we can do these sorts of things there too. You'll notice I'm not going right down to the bottom left edge because I want that to be quite solid to push our interest in towards those shadows. Now I've taken just over 5 minutes for this edit, but I'm pretty sure that with a more careful and measured approach, we could balance the dynamic range even better. But all the techniques we need are here in Adobe Camera Raw or Lightroom. So I'll see you next time, but don't forget, I do need suggestions for 5-minute videos. Please add them below.